lately? Lately, I find myself looking for her in handfuls of spare change. I'm searching for her smile and a copper-faced coin that I can release into a fountain full of moonlit wishes and first-day kisses. Even now, I sit in a coffee shop overcrowded with conversation, and it's her smile I'm listening for. I go to that place where she once knit me together with the forgotten scraps of a quilt none of us can find, but all of us remember. Most days, I just imagine she's sitting in the other room, and that she's still slicing celery into some boiling pot, and at any moment she's just going to walk by, and her essence is going to tap me on the shoulder, and I'm going to have peace in this space where a scraped heart isn't afraid to bleed. Some days I walk around with a $20 bill in my pocket, pretending it's one that she gave me. Sent me in one of those cards she always used to send, those show up when you least expect them but most need them kind of cards, those $20 that says, hey, go get a hamburger on your mom kind of cards. And nobody sends me those kind of cards anymore. In the month after she died, she spoke to me. Through the crowded back closet of memory, she blew the dust off a forgotten shoebox filled with memories I thought I'd never remember. And she said the one thing I least wanted to hear, but most needed to hear. She said, Jeff, death was okay. It was okay. It was better. It was better than her forehead pressed against the moonlit porcelain. It was better than wondering every day if the other shoe was simply going to fall off the top shelf. That it was better than always worrying that the stuff they were putting into her veins was going to get it before it got her. And I know she thought those words would bring comfort to a son whose palms are just pierced with her missing. But most days I'm just a lost boy, searching for maternal comfort in an archipelago of unforgiving stones. Until that one night when I first held her grandson. In my hands, they fit into this perfect place along his back and his neck, almost as if other hands had been there before. And suddenly there was a presence where there was only absence before. You know, Mom, I've changed my cell phone 8 times since you died. But I still keep you in the contact list, just in case there's ever anything else you need to say. I wrote that poem in the year after my mom died, in the first year that her grandson was born. And I've been back to that poem this year because I turned 50 this year. I know, Mike, I'm turning 50 this year. Let that sink in for a moment. And I'm going to realize that this year will be the year where from here on out, I will say that I've spent more time alive without the physical presence of my mom than I have with her. And it's Mother's Day. In fact, if I remember right, it was Mother's Day of 1998 was the last time I spoke to her on the phone. It was Mother's Day. You call your mom on Mother's Day, so I called my mom like I always do. I called her on Sunday. We caught up, asked her when she was going to send me another card with $20 in it. And then I got a call on Friday, and it was from my dad. And back then, if my dad called, something was wrong. I was either in trouble, which usually was the case, or something was wrong. And he told me that our mom had been diagnosed with leukemia, and that between Sunday and Friday, our world would change completely. And 2.5 weeks later, we were seated in our Methodist church in the little town of Rhinelander as we memorialized her life. You know, there's been so many times over the last 24 years where I've just missed her. I am so glad she got to know Bridget. She liked Bridget more than she liked me. And so do most of you, and that's okay. I'm a little heartbroken she never got to meet any of her grandchildren. So I've been thinking this week in preparation for Mother's Day Sunday that while I haven't had the physical presence of my biological mom now for nearly half of my life, I want to stand up here today and say very clearly that I have not been without mothers in my life, that God has provided other mothers for me. And the first of those mothers that comes to mind is actually my dad. My dad, for the past 24 years, has single-parented 2 young men into adulthood and fatherhood. And I can say that there's been times that he has provided the emotional nurture and care that came so naturally to my mother. And this past year of my life, where I needed unconditional love, acceptance, and encouragement, it was my dad who was consistent and patient and empathetic. My dad showed me a mother's love. He showed me my mother's love. My dad has been like a mother to me. And so, Dad, if you're listening this morning, thank you. Thanks for figuring out how to be both our father and our mother. But my reflections this week have also reminded me that God has raised up other mothers from the women in my life, and many of those women who have been a mother to me in these last 24 years have come from the church. At Detroit Central, our first church, it was Carol Watson. Oh, I wish you could have met Carol. Carol was an African-American woman whose heart was as large as her spirit, and she'd always walk in and say, "This is my boy Jeff." What, you don't believe me? You don't recognize the resemblance? She always called me Pumpkinhead. She's like, "Pumpkinhead, what's going on?" And she wanted to know when Bridget and I were going to make grandbabies for her, right? "Get some grandbabies for me." You know, she'd say, one year for Mother's Day, she gave me a frame with an empty frame in it. She says, "This is for the grandson you haven't gave me yet." Right? Carol stepped in and mothered me. When I went to Birmingham first, it was Ruth Peck. Oh, I wish you could have met Ruth Peck. I made the mistake once at a church potluck of telling Ruth Peck that I liked her red Jell-O with the cinnamons in it. Do you know that like once a month for the next 5 years, I got red Jell-O with cinnamons in it? Right? Ruth just kept an eye on me and kept an eye out for me. At Redford Aldersgate, it was Lois Johnson. And she still texts me, "Hey son, watched your sermon. It was good. It was a little long, but it was good." And And boy, I come to Royal Oak First, and I have been mothered by so many mothers. Betty Locke. Oh, I miss Betty. First person I called when I got back from my leave was Betty. Jeff, we have missed you. Jeff, never do that again. The mothers, Kay and Mary and Joan Johnson, so many others, Sue Buxton, Faye Bond, Erica will say Faye is her other mother. And Faye will say, I went out to lunch with my daughter, Erica. The women of the church have sometimes just kept an extra eye on me, checked in with me, sent notes or cards at just the right time for me. There's never a $20 bill in them, but you can feel free to do that anytime you like. I just want to say that that's maybe one of the greatest gifts that the church family gives us all, is extended family, is other mothers and other fathers and other brothers and other sisters. On this Mother's Day, we want to celebrate that the church and the community of faith can sometimes supplement, deepen, expand the love of our families of origin. And sometimes it can even provide the love, the support, the encouragement, the acceptance that for a variety of reasons our families of origin sometimes struggle to give us. And man, we see that clearly in today's text that Mike read. Mike, it's so good to have you up here, man. It's the first time I've seen you on stage without a guitar, right? We were halfway waiting after the scripture for you to break out singing, singing something by America or something, Sister Golden Hair. But you see what that story that Mike read? Jesus has been out doing what Jesus does. He's been out healing blind folks, healing folks with withered hands and folks with all kind of demonic spirits. Jesus is hanging out with the freaks and the failures. He's making friends with prostitutes and hustlers. He's getting into fights with religious folks. He's calling them hypocrites and washed out white tombs, looking all nice on the outside, but dead as can be on the inside. He's saying all kinds of crazy things. Jesus is out saying things like, love your enemies and pray for those who hurt you. Jesus is out saying crazy things like, you want to get to heaven? Then sell all your stuff and give it to the poor and come and follow me. He's saying things you don't like your life, so stop worrying about it. Don't worry about what you will eat or what you will wear. He's saying things like you can't serve God and you can't serve money. And so that's why I love this scene. Because I can imagine my mother coming exactly in this scene. In this scene, Mary brings the brothers, and they're coming to Jesus to have an intervention. Can you imagine trying to do an intervention with Jesus? Man, I would have loved to have been there for that, right? I don't care if you're God's son. I'm your mama. And you're out here embarrassing the family name in the neighborhood. I can't even go to my bridge game without everybody whispering about what you're doing out there. So tone it down, Jesus. I brought you into this world, and I will take you out. Let that scene sink in for a moment. Like literally. Realize that scene. Jesus' family, his own mother, in this moment, didn't understand him. Didn't realize who he was becoming. For this one moment, she couldn't let him be Jesus. Isn't that cool? Let that sink in, because I think every one of us has had that moment in our own family and with our own kids. That moment when you realize that the people who love you the most just don't get you right now. And they're trying as hard as they can, and they just can't quite give you the love that you need. I mean, these moments can happen in a family when somebody falls in love with somebody different than you might have expected. When you bring home that boyfriend or girlfriend or partner for the first time and you're all excited and your folks are like, really? Or when you take a career path that's different than maybe your family expected. I remember early in youth ministry, a young man who was so scared to tell his parents he didn't want to be a doctor like everybody else. He just wanted to teach high school math. Pastor, can you help me tell my parents? Because they don't get me. Or when you vote differently than your parents do, or when you worship differently, or when you live your life in a way that's maybe just different than the world expects you. That's why I love this scripture. Because Jesus is having this moment like we all have this moment. And he looks at his mom with what I believe is real heart and says, Mom, I appreciate you, Mom. I really do. Take these flowers. They're for you. I wouldn't be who I am without you. Then he points to these friends sitting around him, and he says, but God's given me some other family too, Mom. And with these other mothers and these other fathers and these other brothers and these other sisters, they help me understand in a wider way who God wants me to be. And they can accept me and see me and help me figure out what's going on. And I have to say all this today on Mother's Day because Mother's Day can evoke all kinds of emotions within. Mother's Day is a complicated day. Frankly, it's the hardest preaching day of the year. Because on Mother's Day, some of you are like me, and you are just missing your mom. And for others, Mother's Day is a day where you realize, I'm just estranged from my mom. And Mother's Day for others is a day where they say, I've always wanted to be a mom, and I couldn't be. Mother's Day is a day for some moms, and they say, my kids don't get me. And then there are those who are saying, why can't we just celebrate Mother's Day? And so I want to remind us that the larger significance of this Mother's Day holiday is this reminder that in addition to giving thanks to our birth mothers, we also get time to give thanks for our other mothers. Kay, thanks for mothering me. Mary, thanks for mothering me. Sandy, thanks for being a big sister to me. Who are those other women and those other men in your life that cared for you and nurtured you? Who are the other mothers that you want to celebrate today, that you can celebrate today? And how can you let them know that they are appreciated and give thanks to God for them? The truth is, we are raised in community. Looking back over my life, I realized that I've been raised by all kinds of loving and caring people. My parents had a card group that they belonged to. They played cards. They go from 4 or 5 different couples' houses and they play cards once a month or something together. I don't know if any of you have been a part of a card group like that. These are some of their best friends. And now that I'm an adult and a parent, I realize that they weren't getting together just to play cards. They were getting together to figure out how to not go insane raising their family. And that those card-playing groups helped raise us. So I give thanks to families like the Rolaines and the Carstensons and the Mackenzies who gathered with my parents to help them figure out how to love each other. And then there was Audney. Oh, I wish you could have met Audney Bollner. Audney was an old Norwegian widow who lived in our neighborhood. She never had kids of her own, but boy, did she love my brother and me. And I can see now that all those times she took me and my brother to Dairy Queen, what she was doing was giving my mom a break. I thought she liked us. She loved my mom. And then there were all those nights where my mom would just wander over to her house and sit on the porch in the summer and they would pray, and they would pray together. And on the night that my mom died, I ended up on Sandy Tober's porch. And I fell into her arms and I cried. Sandy was my mom's best friend. She cut her hair. And she had 5 kids our age, and she was another mother to me that night. Who are those people in your life, when you look back and reflect on it, that mothered you, that helped raise you, that helped your mother in ways when she couldn't help you? Call to mind those women today. And realize the gift that God is giving you. You know, that's one of our commitments here at Royal Oak First, is that together we can experience the real love of Christ through real lifelong friendships, that you will find the support in the community to help you navigate these times. Think of the Nahats, the Bonds, the Lacombs, the Petersons, the Buxtons. You all did that for each other for years. Then the Harrises and the Bakers and the de Taverniers and the Christophers and the Riggs and the O'Donnells and the Courtneys. You all did it together for years. And then the Sleemans and the Richardsons and the Tripolis did it all together for years. And now it's the Abella Godfreys and the Rickmans and the Moody's and the Wrights and the Cooks and the Showers. You're doing it for each other for years. Every Sunday, I put my sons in Josh's hands and say, parent my kids, because I can't parent them by myself anymore. That they need somebody else, because Josh and Casey talk nerd language in a way that his dad simply cannot. Did you watch The Bad Company this week, Josh? Good, because you either need to talk to me about what that show meant, or you need to spend some time with my kid, because he's very excited about it, and I don't get it, but you do. And so today he's already excited. Well, you're not doing youth group, but he's excited to come talk to you about it, because that's what the community of faith does for each other. As a community of faith, you both get to participate in and receive the blessing of what it means to be a part of this extended family. And so, like Jesus, I hope you can stand and say, hey, Mom, thanks for all that you have given me, but Mom, also thank you for allowing me to be a part of this other group of brothers and sisters who have parented me and loved me and helped me become who I've become along with you. So, Mom, I do miss you. More than, well, I think you know. But Mom, God's given me a whole bunch of other moms. Some of them are here with me today. And they love me like you do. And so I thank God on this Mother's Day for other mothers. Happy birthday, moms. All of you who are a part of this beautiful thing called the faith community, where we mother, love, and care for each other. Now, Mike, do something nice for Patty today, would you? Okay? Friends, thank you for being a part of this Mother's Day celebration.